So Lewis Hamilton is going to Ferrari. It's a day later. I still cannot believe I am saying those words. That was so freaking unexpected. If you told someone even 2 days ago, oh yeah, Lewis is going to drive for Ferrari alongside Charles in 2025, no one single person would believe you. Like, of course no one would see it coming. Lewis was contracted with Mercedes until the end of 2025. We all thought he was going to end his Formula One career with Mercedes, a team he's often said is like family to him. And I suppose no one really knew or realised that he had some kind of exit clause in his contract that meant he could leave a year early. Oh my god. Apparently Toto, joined the meeting, the Mercedes emergency meeting, online from abroad. Talk about an abrupt end to your holiday. You get told your star driver is leaving after being there since 2013. And let me just add on, seeing these 3 graphics here is so freaking weird. It's so strange to see them as legit actual things. It wasn't photoshopped by a fan, it's not fake, it's real, it's actually happening. This has all been done very, very early in the year though. Before that we've even seen the cars. The first launch is today, it's this afternoon with Haas. And we haven't even seen the W15 yet, so it makes me wonder, how bad are things looking for Mercedes that Lewis is already yeah, no, I think I want to call this a year early? Or is it just one of those, F it, why not, let's go drive for Ferrari kind of things? It is Ferrari. And as Sebastian Vettel said, everybody's a Ferrari fan. Even if they say they're not, they're Ferrari fans. So of course there was some statements put out, first of all by Mercedes, which took a comment from Toto and Lewis. Then Ferrari of course had a tiny statement. And then of course with Sainz as well, what's going to happen to him. But this is what Toto had to say in Mercedes' statement that they released when they announced the news. In terms of a driver pairing, our relationship with Lewis has become the most successful the sport has ever seen. And that's something we can look back on with pride. Lewis will always be an important part of Mercedes motorsport history. However, we knew our partnership would come to a natural end at some point, and that day has now come. We accept Lewis's decision to seek a fresh challenge, and our opportunities for the future are exciting to contemplate. But for now, we still have 1 season to go and we're focused on going racing to deliver a strong 2024. And then here is what Lewis had to say in this Mercedes statement. I've had an amazing 11 years with this team and I'm so proud of what we have achieved together. Mercedes has been a part of my life since I was 13 years old. It's a place where I've grown up, so making the decision to leave was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. But the time is right for me to take this step and I'm excited to be taking on a new challenge. I will be forever grateful for the incredible support of my Mercedes family, especially Toto for his friendship and leadership, and I want to finish on a high together. I am 100% committed to delivering the best performance I can this season and making my last year with Silver Arrows one to remember. And the stats here at the bottom, it says for his time with Mercedes, since he joined the team in 2013, 222 starts, 6 drivers titles, 82 race victories, 148 podiums, 78 pole positions, 127 front rows, 53 fastest laps. He's achieved so much with Mercedes. It's insane. And now he's going to be headed for Ferrari power. They've clearly managed to lure him in with whatever they have going on. I mean, Fred clearly has something cooking with 2026, Ferrari's statement was very short and sweet and to the point. But of course, Carlos Sainz also had his statement that he put out in regards to leaving the team, in regards to leaving Ferrari. Following today's news, Scuderia Ferrari and myself will part ways at the end of 2024. We still have a long season ahead of us, and like always, I will give my absolute best for the team and for the Tifosi all around the world. News about my future will be announced in due course. I do find it a little bit strange that Ferrari didn't announce Sainz leaving before they announced Lewis joining. It is a little funny just how irrelevant Sainz became yesterday in all this. Because it was oh, Lewis joining Ferrari? He's gonna be joining Ferrari? What? Sorry, Carlos Sainz? Who? And I saw this, that apparently Charles Leclerc's favourable opinion was necessary for Lewis Hamilton's arrival at Ferrari, even if no one will ever admit it, and the Monegasque agreed to take up the challenge. I mean, he clearly is up for the challenge, because he apparently knew about Lewis and all that prior to signing his new contract extension that was announced last week. So he's clearly up for the challenge, so in that regard I don't really have all that many concerns as to how he himself is going to fare against Lewis as Lewis is his teammate. I think Charles will be fine. I mean, he went up against Seb in the same machinery. Okay, Seb and Lewis are very different things, I know, but just run with me here. He went up against Seb in the same machinery and won. And that was when Charles was he was at the beginning of his time with Ferrari, and now Lewis, it's a very different kettle of fish. But, he's held his own quite well against Lewis in different machinery, the last few seasons, and I'm sure he'll be fine against him in the same machinery when Leclerc has a lot more experience at the team that Lewis is going to be joining. And a lot more experience in Formula 1. Not as much as Lewis, obviously, but I think he'll be fine. It'll be interesting to see how things pan out in terms of that driver pair, because that is one hell of a lineup. It really is. I mean, two of the best drivers on the grid as teammates in the same team. Because, Lewis won't want to play second fiddle, and neither will Charles. And I don't think either of them will de facto play second fiddle, because either way around there'll be a freaking riot on your hands. Ferrari are not going to automatically make Leclerc the number 2 just because they signed Lewis. If they did that, they would have a riot on their hands. And similarly, if Ferrari made Lewis de facto number 2 because Leclerc is the golden boy, again, they'd have a riot on their hands. But it's definitely going to be interesting. And it makes sense, that a driver like Lewis, who is statistically the most successful Formula 1 driver of all time, would want to go to Ferrari. A team that all drivers really want to drive for, or most drivers at least, dream to drive for at some point in their Formula 1 career, and it's finally happening. It's something that's been spoken about before. It was spoken about a lot last year. It was there in Monaco, I believe, when the news of, could Lewis go to Ferrari first started. And then there was that clip that came out around about then from a press conference where Leclerc was asked, what do you look for in what would you look for in a new teammate or something like that? And Lewis was there and he was like, hello Lewis. I'm never looking at that clip the same way again. This whole process of Lewis actually going to Ferrari probably wasn't started then, but my point remains. Apparently on the timeline of Lewis going to Ferrari, apparently there were negotiations between Sainz and Ferrari 3 weeks ago, but then Ferrari were made aware that Lewis Hamilton could be available. Again, funny how irrelevant Carlos Sainz becomes in an instant. It's like, okay, yeah, we'll see you tomorrow, Carlos. Oh, Lewis Hamilton might be available. Hey Lewis, do you fancy coming to Maranello? Sainz still continues his trend of just becoming invisible sometimes. Anyway, when you have a driver like Lewis potentially going to Ferrari and actually going to Ferrari, it's understandable that, the man who is at the cost of would become a little bit irrelevant. But in the long run, I think having a driver like Hamilton joining Ferrari, that's going to be hugely beneficial to Ferrari and Leclerc in the long run. Because, they can maybe pick things up from him and learn from him and how he's gotten all his success. Maybe there's some things that he can bring to Ferrari to help them get back to their championship winning ways. I mean, Hamilton hasn't won with these new cars yet, but this is still technically the turbo hybrid era, and he might be able to help them with some things into the next era, And I mean, in terms of whichever one of them wins, whether it's Leclerc winning or Hamilton winning, look, we all know Leclerc's my favorite driver. We all know Ferrari's my favorite team. Lewis Hamilton is my second favorite driver. So for me, this is an absolute win. He's going to have a hell of a challenge, Lewis, because I mean, he's kind of going into Leclerc's team, but he's clearly up for the challenge, and I would expect him to be up for the challenge. 1, he's Lewis Hamilton, and 2, he's a racing driver. They are competitive as all hell. Can he win races at Ferrari? Well, yes, I think he can win races at Ferrari. Championships, well, we'll have to see. But then there's also the thing of what happens at Mercedes. Who's gonna partner George? Let's be fair, he'll be like a pig in shit now. I mean, he can finally be the team leader at Mercedes, but who goes to Mercedes to replace Lewis Hamilton? They definitely have options. They have some options hanging around. It could just be a direct swap with Sainz, but I don't see that happening, quite frankly. We all know where I think Sainz is gonna end up. I'm sticking to my guns on that one. I've seen Alonso's name mentioned. It is possible. I mean, it's Fernando Alonso. It would not surprise me that if he ditches Aston Martin for Mercedes, they could opt for Mick Schumacher. That is an option because he's kind of a free agent. They might get him back into Formula 1. Esteban Ocon could be an option for them because I do see him leaving Alpine at the end of the year, but would Mercedes take the bet on him? I'm not entirely sure. They could do just a shock option of Kimi Antonelli if he does a good job in F2 this year, but quite frankly, that's never really been Mercedes' thing to go for a rookie driver, and one so young as well. He's like 18, I think. But I think the most likely option is Alexander Albon. I think that Mercedes, because Albon's contract is up at the end of this year, I think Mercedes will sign Albon, and then if Antonelli does a good job, then they can probably end up sweet talking James Vowles into maybe taking Kimi Antonelli. But who knows? It could be anyone. But I've seen what was it, Karun Chandok saying Bottas back to Mercedes. I've seen some people hoping for Seb to return. happen, but I quite frankly, I do not see that one coming. I don't think anyone really expects that one to happen, but I'm sticking to Albon. I think it's going to be Alex Albon getting the call up to Mercedes, and that'll be good to see, you know? I think he deserves a shot in a top team again, you know? It'll be interesting to see how he would do again in a top team. And we know he gets along fine with George, so there'll be no worries there, but we'll see what happens. And then Sainz. What happens then? Well, as I said, we all know where I think he's going. If you saw my 2025 grid prediction video, which those predictions are starting to go up in fire because, I mean, let's be fair, no one could have seen Lewis Hamilton being part of this freaking silly season. But I think he's gonna go to Sauber, which will eventually become Audi. But this is huge. Like, this is one of the biggest driver moves ever, you know? I said on Twitter a few days ago, like over a week ago, I think actually, that this year's silly season, it's gonna be dull as hell or batshit crazy. And like, we don't even need to see any more transfers for that decision of what's gonna be like to be made. We're in batshit crazy territory. Oh, what a way to kick off the month in which F1 returns. But anyway, what do you think of Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari? What are your thoughts on that? This was not my planned video for today, as you can maybe imagine. I was planning 2019 without Mercedes today, but pushing that back to next Friday, the 9th. And then, yeah, the Friday after that, the 16th. Gonna be ranking the 2024 liveries. So, we're good with videos. What do you think about all this? What do you think of Hamilton to Ferrari? Who do you think will replace him at Mercedes? Where do you think Sainz is going to end up? Let me know down in the comments below. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new around here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.